You are standing in the biscuit aisle at the Robina Coles, holding a packet of Tim Tams, doing the small, silent arithmetic we all pretend we do not do. Last month, it was one price. This month, it is a little more. And somewhere between the trolley and the self-checkout, a quiet question forms. Is this simply the cost of living, or is somebody having a lend of me? For most of our history, there was no law in this country against charging too much for a tin of beans. You might find that outrageous, but outrage is not a legal category. A business could set whatever price it liked, provided it was not lying about it and not carving up the market with its rivals. Charging a lot, all on its own, was simply called Tuesday. That changed on the 1st of July 2026. From that date, there is a new rule tucked inside the mandatory Food and Grocery Code, and it does something this country has not really tried before. It makes it against the law for a very large supermarket to charge a price that is, in the glorious phrasing of the regulation itself, significantly excessive when compared to the cost of supply plus a reasonable margin. Now hold that phrase in your mind for a moment, because we will come back to it. A reasonable margin. 3 words doing roughly the same heavy lifting as the phrase "some assembly required" on the side of a flat-pack wardrobe. Technically true, spiritually a warning. Who does this apply to? Only the giants. To be caught, a retailer needs annual revenue north of $30 billion, which in practice means 2 companies, Coles and Woolworths, and only those 2. Aldi, for the moment, can breathe easy. So can Costco. The referee is the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, the ACCC. And if one of the big 2 is found to have crossed the line, the penalty is not a stern letter and a biscuit. It is the greater of $10 million, or 3 times whatever they gained, or 10% of their annual turnover. For a company that size, 10% of turnover is the sort of number that makes chief executives sit very upright in their ergonomic chairs. Here is the background you actually need. In 2025, the ACCC wrapped up a year-long inquiry into the supermarkets. It found that the 2 big chains ring up more than 2/3 of all grocery sales in the country, that they sit among the most profitable supermarket businesses on the planet, and that they have, in the regulator's own careful words, limited incentive to compete vigorously on price. All of which sounds fairly damning. And yet, here is the part the headlines quietly skate past. That same inquiry did not find that their prices were excessive, and it did not recommend a law like this one at all. But here is the peculiar bit. A law written to push your grocery bill down might, very gently, do the opposite. Start with those 2 words we parked earlier. Significantly excessive. A reasonable margin. These phrases have not been pinned to an actual number. There is no bright line painted on the lino that says, "Step over here and you owe $10 million. Instead, reasonableness gets weighed case by case, against costs and market conditions and comparable products, which is a lawyer's way of saying we will be arguing about this for years. And the supermarkets have good reason to argue, because the stakes are enormous. Competition experts who have picked over this law keep arriving at the same quietly deflating conclusion. It will probably be used only rarely, because proving that a price is significantly excessive, rather than merely annoying, is monstrously hard. And then comes the twist inside the twist. If you are a very large supermarket, and a bold discount or an unusual price now carries a small but real chance of a regulator knocking on your door to ask pointed questions about your margins, what do? You get cautious. You price like the shop across the road. You quietly retire the strange, sharp, occasionally brilliant discounts that made shopping around worth the effort. A rule built to sharpen competition could, if the big players get nervous enough, end up gently sanding it smooth. So who actually benefits from a supermarket price gouging ban? The honest answer is more tangled than any headline. Start with what got left out, which is where these things get interesting. The ban covers food and groceries. It does not cover alcohol, and it does not cover petrol, because the giant retailer test looks at the supermarket business, not the fuel being pumped out the front. Which is a curious pair of exceptions when you sit with it, because alcohol and petrol happen to be two things where a very large slice of the shelf price is government tax. So it is worth asking, gently, whether the quiet part is this. It is far easier to scrutinise a company's margin on a block of cheese than to shine that same lamp on the tax baked into a tank of unleaded. Then look at the machinery built around the law, because that tells you who it is really designed to serve. Alongside the ban, the government handed the ACCC over $30 million to chase harmful or misleading conduct in the sector, funded the consumer group Choice to publish more information on prices, and put money toward helping fresh produce suppliers stand up to the big chains. Notice who is on that list. Regulators, a consumer group, farmers and suppliers. The people this law most reliably benefits are not, in the first instance, you at the checkout. They are the players arranged around you, and the politicians who get to stand at a podium and say the words "fair a go" in an election year. And the big chains themselves? They came out against the rules, warning the changes could push costs up and leave shoppers missing out on deals. Make of that what you will. It might be genuine concern for your weekly shop. It might also be that the one thing a dominant business enjoys least is a referee holding a 10% of turnover whistle. So the next time you are standing in that aisle, holding the Tim Tams, doing the arithmetic, here is what has actually changed and what has not. There is now a line in the law saying the two biggest chains cannot charge a price that is significantly excessive over their costs. That line is real, and it has real teeth. What is far less certain is whether you will ever feel those teeth at the register, or whether the whole thing surfaces once every few years as a courtroom argument about the true cost of a block of cheese. The useful move is not to sit back and wait for the law to lower your bill for you. It is to remember that the price on the shelf was set by a business with far more information than you have, one the regulator itself has described as facing limited pressure to compete. Comparing the big two against Aldi, against the local grocer, against that tiny unit price sticker you are apparently meant to read without glasses, is still the thing that quietly moves money back toward your side of the trolley. The law changed the rules of the game. You are still the one pushing the trolley. And if a claim ever does land in front of the ACCC, you will know precisely what they are all arguing about. 3 small, slippery words. A reasonable margin. Watch what happens to them.